Well, hi, and welcome to Personal Bankruptcy Canada, a place where we discuss financial solutions for Canadians. I'm Wayne Kelly, and today I've got Gareth Slocum, a trustee in bankruptcy with G. Slocum and Associates, all the way from Nanaimo, BC, with me. Hi there, Gareth.
Hi, Wayne. It's good to be here.
Thank you. And we're going to be discussing back taxes and CRA today. First off, what does it mean by having back taxes?
Well, it's essentially you owe Revenue Canada some money, um, but it's not that simple because for example for self-employed people, very often they view it as well, if I get to April 30th and I owe some money, that's when I owe it. And they don't think about it during the prior year when they're working and making money and spending and so forth. And so you've really got to be on top of it every month and figure out what it is you should be putting away. You can be reassessed for years gone by for various reasons, but the usual story is you're trying to pay too many things, and unfortunately it's Revenue Canada, particularly for self-employed people, it's very easy to get behind, because if you don't pay your employee, or you don't pay the rent, or you don't pay suppliers, you're going to be out of business very quickly, if not right away. Whereas if you don't pay Revenue Canada, well, you can get by for quite some time, and manage to put it off and not file returns. That's occasionally happens, and some people just, well, I'll figure it out next year. And it can snowball into something pretty disastrous.
Yeah, we could be talking about some major tax bills for Canadians if they're not paying attention. What can they do? What are some of the options they can do if they get behind with paying this big tax bill with Revenue Canada?
Well, absolutely, a trustee can help in that regard. The first thing I say to people, though, is I want to make sure if they have a tax bill that do they agree with the number, generally speaking. Because some people come and they say, well, I don't agree with what the tax department's done. I don't feel I owe this money. And I say, well, you should be really appealing this, because as trustee, I'm not going to appeal it for you. You get your accountant, a good accountant, to go and appeal this. And if that's not an option, if really the tax is owed, then certainly we can provide solutions. It's not like the states where getting rid of income tax is a problem. You can do that under the bankruptcy laws in Canada, either through a proposal to Revenue Canada or a bankruptcy, with some caveats. A proposal to Revenue Canada for taxes is doable. It's tougher than credit card companies, but it is doable. Generally speaking, they like to see about, we've found, in the range of 50 cents on the dollar, but it does depend on your ability to pay. The other thing that they look at quite closely is in fact your ability to pay. They don't want a proposal from somebody that's kind of pie in the sky, and they're going to be struggling along on a 5-year proposal, and they're halfway through, and they're just not going to make it work. And we don't want that either. So that generally doesn't happen that way. But Revenue Canada will look at that much more than a credit card company. And the other thing is, if you've owed taxes because you haven't filed, you've been dodging the tax man for years, they're not really happy about cutting a deal. So that may end up resulting in you having to file bankruptcy instead, in which case you can get rid of your tax debts, but if you owe more than $200,000 in income tax debts, penalties and interest, personal income tax that is, you don't get an automatic discharge from bankruptcy. There will be a court hearing, and they can oppose your discharge from bankruptcy and have you be required to make some payments. The court would, over a period of years.
What do you find that Canadians, are they, people who get into this situation, do you find that they they didn't realize they needed to take more tax off, or like, how do they even get into this situation? Because this could be really devastating to a family and an individual.
Well, there are cases where certainly people are surprised, and usually that is because they've been reassessed for a prior year for some reason. The sympathetic kind of situations are where somebody's accountant has not done things properly, and there's been a taxpayer who's done everything perfectly, and they've got a big assessment from prior years with the penalties and interest tacked on. They can't possibly pay it. There is a mechanism with Revenue Canada under sort of fairness provision where they can waive the penalties and interest portion in some cases. They won't compromise the actual tax debt, though, unless it's through a bankruptcy or proposal with a trustee.
Okay.
And there's good reason for that.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense because those penalties can oftentimes grow to way more than the actual tax debt, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where it catches up with a lot of people. They feel like, well, I only probably owed $5,000 last year, but I couldn't pay it. Now, that's fine. I'll get it next year. Well, no, it's growing. It's growing exponentially, over a period of time. They have to get onto it. And typically, people don't. They end up in trouble. But there is a solution, and if you see a trustee, we can help you out.
Once again, I learned more about all that trustees in bankruptcy can do. So this is something that you can guide people through.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Well, if people have more questions, of course, they can get a hold of us through our website at personalbankruptcycanada.ca. Gareth, thanks very much for being on the show today.
It's been great. Thanks very much.
You got it. My guest today is Gareth Slocum from G. Slocum and Associates in Nanaimo, BC.